in this section we're going to look at a thing called Finance Solver, which is going to make our life a lot easier for calculating future values for questions where there's more than one operation going on each term in a sequence. So for example, we've looked previously at sequences where you have a term being multiplied by something and then adding or subtracting something else. Now that process of multiplying by r and adding or subtracting d is perfect for situations where you have a loan or an investment. And so the interest and the payment is shown by r and by d. So that's where Finance Solver is really useful, because you often want to calculate far into the future to work out some financial decisions that you might be making. And unfortunately, because there's two operations, it's not as simple as simply timesing by, however many times you want to do it, or in the ways that we were doing with geometric sequence and arithmetic sequences. So we had to use a thing called Finance Solver to do it. And it's important to know when to use this. So you're going to use this when the question has both interest calculations on there and payments, all in the same kind of question. The other important thing is to know about which sign to use, so positive or negative signs. So as a general rule, if the money is leaving you as the person, the investor, if the money is leaving you, then we use a negative sign. If it's going to you, we use a positive sign. Okay, so this is leaving the individual, investor, or customer, if you're getting a loan, and plus is the money is going to the customer. So let's have a look at how we're going to use Finance Solver. Okay, so this is a classic kind of question now. So a loan of 50,000. It's really important with these questions to highlight everything because there's usually a lot of information. It's taken out over 25 years at a rate of 4.5% monthly, to be repaid in monthly installments. The first part asks us to calculate how much each repayment needs to be. So what's the repayment got to be if the loan is going for 25 years? So the question mark is this one. Now I'll show you how to open up Finance Solver. You go to your calculator page and you press Menu, Finance, and it's the top one, Finance Solver. And you'll be presented with all of these boxes to fill in. So this is where I'm going to explain what each box is. So N is the number of payments, not to be confused with number of years, number of payments. So if you're doing it monthly for 25 years, N is going to be equal to 25 times 12. Okay, and you can type that straight into the box. That's what we're going to do here. We're going to write 25 times 12. Okay, write it on here as well, 12, because that's how many payments. I is the interest rate, okay, and that's in per annum. So you don't have to recalculate the monthly rate. It's the annual interest rate. Let's just write annual interest rate. Okay, so in this case it was 4.5%. Okay, you don't need to add a percentage thing there. That's just how you write it. And on the actual question, I often write I. So that was 4.5%. Okay, you press tab to get through these. So PV is the next one. So this is the principal value. So that's like what you're starting with in this loan. So principal value here is the 50,000. Now it's important to know that that 50,000 is a loan. So if it's a loan, going back to my question about signs, if it's a loan, it's going to the customer. So it wants to be positive. Okay, and this is really critical to get the answer right. So the loan is going to be 50,000 and that's a positive. Now the payments, this is the payments made by the customer or by the investor. These we don't know. This is actually the question mark. So PMT is the question mark one. So we're going to leave it blank. That's going to be the last box that we fill in. FV means future value, and in this question we want to repay the loan for part A. So FV is going to be equal to 0. Okay, because we need to repay the loan. So FV equals 0. Lastly, we do the payments per year and the compounding periods per year. Now these usually always match, usually. Just be careful to read the question in case they've thrown a trick in there. Payments per year, and if you pay on a certain schedule, they'll usually do the compounding periods on the same schedule. So if you're on a mortgage loan, for example, they'll do it 12 and 12. Okay, and we know that CPY and PPY are 12 because of this. So CPY and PPY equal 12, and they often get done together. So once you've filled them all in, you don't have to do anything at the last box there. You just leave that as it is. So I'm just going to fill in the rest. Now FV is 0, PPY is 12, CPY is 12, and I'm going to keep pressing tab until I get to the PMT box, because that's my question mark. If every box is filled in except the one, then it will be able to deliver me a correct answer. So I'm going to press enter now, and it tells me negative 277.92 to 2 decimal place. Now that means that that's the payment from the person that's been given the loan. That's how much they have to give back to the bank every month to repay it in 25 years, or 500 payments. Sorry, 300 payments. So 300 payments is the 25 years. So the answer comes out, and I'm going to put this in a different color now, of 277, negative 277.92. Okay, and that means that the final answer for part A here, part A. Okay. Now for part B, just going to copy and paste the question. How much is left owing after 20 years? Okay, so once again, I'm going to fill out all of these here. So after 20 years, I'm going to have 20 times 12 payments in that time. I is still 4.5, they haven't changed that. PV is still the 50,000, and that's still positive. PMT, I now know, is 277.92, and that's negative. FV is the unknown in this situation, so we leave that out, and then PPY and CPY are 12 and 12. Now this will allow me to find the value of the future value there, okay, after 20 years. So let's have a look at that. So I don't have to change too much here. I just need to go in and change this one, so it's 20 times 12. That's all the same. And now I'm going to highlight the FV box, and I'm going to press enter, and that's going to give me the amount owing. So it's negative because that is due to leave the individual at some point. So the FV being negative means it's still owing. We'll make a note of that in a sec. So the value there, I'm just going to copy and paste that one, is minus 14907.25. We round everything to 2 decimal place in the end because the answer is to 2 decimal place, but don't round until you've done all of your calculations. So, still owing after 20 years. And I'm just going to make a note of negative FV means still owing. Okay, if it went positive, the bank would owe you. Okay, for part C, let's have a look at part C. Part C, you shop around for a better loan. It's always a good thing to do, and you want to know what rate you need in order to repay the same loan but in 20 years. So you fully repay it in 20 years. So what rate do we need? So that's the question mark. I is the question mark here. All right. N is 20 years, so we're going to do 20 times 12. PV is still 50,000 positive. PMT, we are going to keep the same. So what we're suggesting here is that we keep the payments the same, but we just want to get a better rate. 0.92. FV will be 0. And PPY CPY is 12. And that should give us the answer. Okay, so I'm going to put in 240 there. I'm going to leave I as blank. I'm going to put FV as 0. And I'm going to press enter while the I box is highlighted. So that tells me I need a rate of 3.02465%. Okay, so most of the time you only get interest rates given as 2 decimal place, so we'll just leave it as that, 3.02. 3.02. You would need an interest rate. Okay. Lastly, we're going to do part D, which is that we want to change our repayments to weekly with the same interest rate. How will that affect the amount of time? So let's just have a look at that one. So this time, this is quite a common thing to do with loans. So I know that most banks offer the ability to change it to weekly or fortnightly, which actually works quite well with people's payment schedules as well. So once again, we're going to keep this as, so this is a how long question. So N is actually the question mark here. I, we've said, is the same as part C, so that's 3.02. If that was a SAC, you'd get the marks regardless of what your interest rate you put in here is, because it's consequential marking. PV is 50,000. PMT is minus 277.92. FV comes out as 0. And PPY CPY, because it's weekly, come out as 52, because there's that many weeks and compounding periods if that's weekly. Okay, so that will give us the time period in number of payments. And that's going to come out as in weeks if we do this way. So let's type all this in. I'm going to leave N blank. FV 0, change that to 52, 52. And if we hit N, enter there, 190 weeks. 190 point. Okay, so you could work out what that is in years, but that's fine to leave your answer like that. If you wanted to work it out in years, you just divide that by 52.